We live in an era marked by speculation, sensationalism, and false prophecies about the end times. Many are swayed by modern interpretations that mix pop culture, apocalyptic movies, and conspiracy theories. But the real question is, what did Jesus actually say about the end times? In this deep and expository study, we will examine the words of Christ himself in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, texts known as the Olivet Discourse. We will seek to understand Jesus' intent, the correct application of the prophecies, and what it all means for the church today. Our goal is to remain faithful to Scripture, avoiding exaggerations, respecting the context, and exalting God's sovereignty over history. Jesus had just left the temple in Jerusalem when his disciples, impressed by the grandeur of the structure, drew his attention to it. "Truly, I say to you, not one stone here will be left upon another that will not be thrown down." Matthew 24, verse 2. This striking statement triggered one of Jesus' most important sermons about the last days. But to understand what he meant, we must consider the historical background, Israel under Roman rule, the Jewish messianic expectation, the rejection of Jesus as the Messiah, the imminent destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. Jesus was not only speaking of the end of the world, but also of the impending judgment on Israel for its unbelief. Jesus' prophecy is twofold. It speaks of near events and far-off events. A proper interpretation of this sermon requires hermeneutical care, considering verb tense, historical context, and the progressive nature of revelation. As a true prophet, Jesus speaks both to that generation and to all future ones, establishing a pattern of suffering, persecution, and hope. Moreover, this sermon must be read in light of the whole counsel of God. It is not isolated. Revelation, Paul's epistles, and the Old Testament prophecies form a cohesive whole pointing to the fulfillment of the redemptive plan. Jesus begins his response with a solemn warning. "See that no one leads you astray." v. 4. Before the end comes, there will be false Christs. v. 5. Wars and rumors of wars. v. 6. Famines, plagues, and earthquakes. v. 7. Persecution of believers. v. 9. Scandals, betrayals, and cold-heartedness. Verses 10 to 12. These are merely the beginning of birth pains. That is, they do not mean the end has come, but that it is drawing near. Every generation experiences these signs differently. The imagery Jesus uses resembles labor pains, real, growing, and inevitable suffering that points to something glorious about to be born, the new creation, the restoration of all things. Jesus does not call us to despair, but to perseverance. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. v. 13. This endurance is not a human achievement but the fruit of true faith sustained by divine grace. In a collapsing world, the true Christian stands firm because he is anchored in the Word. Another key point is verse 14. "And this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." The mission of the church is essential to the eschatological plan. The gospel must be preached before the end comes. This reinforces that the church's focus should be on mission, not speculation. At this point, Jesus cites Daniel and speaks of the abomination of desolation. This refers to something profane and detestable that takes the place of the sacred. Historically, many believe this was partially fulfilled in AD 70, when the temple was destroyed by the Romans under Titus. But it also points to a greater eschatological reality. Jesus describes a time of unprecedented distress. "For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be." v. 21. This period of tribulation primarily affects God's people. It involves intense persecution, widespread apostasy, and satanic deception through false prophets and lying signs. The comfort lies in God's sovereignty. And if those days had not been cut short, no human being would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. v. 22. Again, Jesus calls us to vigilance. False Christs will attempt to deceive, even the elect. But Christ's coming will be unmistakable, like lightning flashing across the sky. The Great Tribulation should not cause panic in true Christians, but remind us that we are pilgrims in a hostile land awaiting final deliverance. Our strength comes from the Word, not from extraordinary signs. After the tribulation, Jesus describes cosmic phenomena that precede his return. The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven. v. 29. These images echo Old Testament prophecies, Isaiah, Joel, and point to cataclysmic disorder in creation, heralding the glorious arrival of the King. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. v. 30. This is the climax of history. Jesus returns visibly, in authority, accompanied by his angels, to gather the elect and execute final judgment. There is no room here for secret raptures. Christ's return will be public, universal, and final. He will not come secretly only to return again. He will come once and for all to reign eternally. The presence of angels, the sound of the trumpet, and the gathering of the elect mark the end of the present age and the beginning of eternity. Jesus uses parables and comparisons to stress the importance of being ready. The parable of the fig tree, verses 32 to 35. The example of Noah's days, verses 36 to 39. The faithful and unfaithful servants, verses 45 to 51. All these illustrations point to one truth: the Lord will come when many are not expecting him. Watchfulness is the call for every Christian. Therefore you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. v. 44. This is not about paranoia, but piety. True preparation for Christ's return is not found in prophetic charts, but in a holy, obedient life committed to the gospel. The faithful servant is the one who cares for the Lord's household, feeds the brethren with the word, and lives as though Jesus could return at any moment, because he can. How can we apply this teaching today? Beware of sensationalist prophets. Many claim to speak for God, but twist his word to gain followers. Return to the Scriptures. Do not live in fear of the Antichrist. Christ is King. Our focus must be on the glory of Jesus, not the power of evil. Trust in God's sovereignty. Nothing happens outside his control. History is moving toward his ordained conclusion. Invest in holiness and mission. Time is short. Souls need the gospel. The urgency of the end should fuel evangelism. Feed your faith with the Word. Solid biblical knowledge is the best antidote to spiritual deception in the last days. Wait with hope, not despair. Christ's return is glorious for the saved. It is the day of our redemption, not terror. Jesus' prophecy about the end times was not given to frighten us, but to prepare us. It is a call to watchfulness, perseverance, and hope.